Alex Wolff, before I pressed record, we were just talking about how I was so freaking terrified by Hereditary. And I want to know, given that you were in it and you've talked about it ad nauseum for months, were you actually scared as well when you watched it?
When I watched it or when I was making it?
How about when you were making it and when you watched it?
You know, I think that like the scariest part of watching it is looking at your own face. I think that's scary. I mean, you're just like, I think for many different reasons. One, you're like, oh God, is that like how like big my face is? Is that how crazy my hair doesn't look how you think? All that stuff. That's the first thing that's terrifying, makes your stomach sick. And then there is a weird thing when I saw it the second time where I see maybe like a look in my eyes in certain scenes that is different than maybe my normal look in my eyes. And I go, oh man, something was going on there. It was really something was going on there. And there's things that maybe I don't recognize. And maybe that's a little scary, also maybe a little exciting. But yeah, I'd say the scariest part of watching it for the first time. I mean, yes, you get scared also by the movie and you're like, oh my God, there's many parts I'm like, oh my God, you know, your stomach gets sick, like especially, you know, when the grandma's just standing in the shadows and, you know, Tony's watching. I mean, many different things are watching how the seance scene came together. Things like that are terrifying. But I'd say the most terrifying thing is did I do a good job and how do I look? And maybe not recognizing yourself in certain moments, which is good and a little scary certain times.
Yeah, I think I totally understand that because, you know, it's like when you hear your own voice, you just think, oh my God, is that what I sound like? So it's that kind of thing where you just kind of get a little bit kind of
times 100.
Yeah.
Like that times 100. Because it's
because you're right there. It's this huge screen with your face. And so, yeah, I can't imagine. I wouldn't be able to actually do that. So well, props to you.
Well, I'm staring at your face and it's a beautiful face. So I would be very happy to your face.
Really appreciate that. Now, let's talk about firstly how you got involved in the film. So can you talk us through that?
Well, you know, I read the script about a year before I auditioned. I read it. Sorry, I'm in the production office for Human Capital, the movie I'm starting in about 2 weeks. So we're here and I had to do a fitting and then run over her. I was going to do the whole thing in a prison outfit, actually. I have like a prison suit and a jumpsuit and I was going to do it, but then I changed last minute. I checked out. Yeah, I read the script, but a year before I auditioned, I didn't know what was going on with it. I just was like, wow, that is one of the most special, terrifying scripts I ever read. And I just asked about it and they're like, yeah, they're figuring out what's going to happen with it. I think it's going to be with A24, but we don't know. And so I kind of was like, well, obviously, you know, when it starts picking up speed, you better contact me to my agents and managers. They're like, yeah, well, this will be highly competitive. You know, this is not one we could just lock you in early on. It's going to be a highly competitive thing for this role because it's a beautifully written role. So yeah, I waited almost a year. And then when I was doing this play in New York, All the Fine Boys, I got the audition to go on the audition right before opening night or something like that. And I was so nervous for other stuff. I was so like, my head was so somewhere else. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to go do my best. And I went in and just had to do a crazy sobbing scene where I was just sitting there sobbing. And then after we were all kind of just sitting there, we were like, and he was like, all right, man. And we didn't know what to say. And I was like, okay. And then I just like started to walk out and he goes, hey, and I was like, what? And he's like, I really liked you in Patriots Day. And I was like, thanks, man. I walked out and then they called me back in and I came back in a second time and Ari and I worked a lot together and I was like, this guy is a genius. This guy really knows how to work with actors. He really knows what he's doing. He's, you know, a really good guy. And then waited way too long, waited like 2 weeks of the show. And then before the show one night, like right before I went on, I got an email that said I got the part. I was really excited.
Wow.
Sorry, that was a convoluted answer, but I've never told that story. You want to do different?
It's fascinating. Because what I'm also thinking about is you audition, so you know what you're going to be up against when you do the film. You know what you're going to be doing, the challenges that you're going to have. And I'm wondering, like, was there anything in particular that you were nervous about or like worried about doing when you kind of read the script?
The whole movie. every scene. I mean, the movie is just one thing after another. It's just watching someone lose their mind in real time and literally break. Just watching somebody like break their sanity, break, and their, I mean, the emotional spectrum is just, I mean, it's crazy. You just go, it just had to completely let go. So I think it's strange though, because I didn't feel like it was nerves. It was more like, it wasn't like that thing of like, am I gonna fail? It was more like before you go do like play like a football game or like a basketball game or something, and you're in the locker room, you know, you're gonna do it, and that's gonna be physical. There's kind of like a, okay, let's go thing about it, rather than when you're like sitting and shriveling and, oh my God, I'm gonna fail, which happens all the time. But with this movie, it was so physical, so visceral, and so I had to be so unself-conscious. I had to just, you know, open myself up. So did Tony. Everybody had to, without any, I couldn't be subconscious. I couldn't act. I couldn't fake this. I had to really go through hell. And so I think it was like more like being in a locker room. Like before I went, it was like Ari and I, he was the coach, and we were just, he was pumping me up.
You know, that visceralness really comes across. Like I can imagine that you all had to just be like, just kind of let a lot of stuff go and really kind of throw yourself, because you can see that in Tony's performance, Gabriel's, yours. It really does come across. So is that the feeling on set? Did you guys switch off when the camera stopped rolling, or were you kind of still in that mode?
I think that everybody had their own different ways of handling it, I think. Millie was great at turning things on and off. I think for me, I was maybe a little afraid to totally turn it off when the cameras were. And I think Ari was afraid to turn it off. He wasn't just messing around. I mean, he was kind of like, not that there's anything wrong with that, because a lot, you know, it can be even more affecting sometimes people if it can be even more fresh when they just go into it, you know. But for this particular movie, I wanted to stay sort of in the mode. And the press has made a bit of a thing about that, but I just felt like so lucky with Ari and so lucky with the cast and Gabriel and Millie. It was just like, just everybody, and Anne and Tony and everybody. It was like just really lucky to be surrounded by such great players that they kind of, wow, players is such a pretentious way of saying it, but just such great. I was thinking about a team. Literally, I was thinking about players on a team. Like, it was such great, like, players on this team that it was like my process was all part. They knew that whatever I was doing was what I needed to do, what everyone needed to do, but we were all still in it together. But it's mostly thanks to Ari. Ari was really set the tone for the movie. He's a genius, as everybody knows.
He absolutely is. Like, so, like, I didn't know a lot about the film when I saw it, right? So I just went in there thinking, because I'm an Australian, so I thought, oh, well, I like Tony Collette, and I don't know anything about the film. I don't know who's in it. I'll just watch it, see how I go. That was probably a mistake. I should have prepared myself, because I was so freaking terrified by this movie. It's one of those, like, you know, after like 3 or 4 hours afterwards, something will just like go into your mind, like the image of the old man in the door frame. And
oh yeah, you mean when I just look back and
yeah, like, God, really, that was just horrifying, but it's so good.
That guy was there, by the way. That was real. That guy was there. I had to look back at a naked dude in the closet.
He must have really loved doing that. But, you know, it's all part of the process, right?
But one of the weirdest days of my whole life was when I was doing that scene at the end. We won't give it away. If you haven't seen Hereditary, you should see it. You should probably watch.
Don't watch it. We're going to talk about the film. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then we'll just spoil it. You just put a big spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. I'm Payman. I'm the god of mischief, or devil of mischief. It's really Paimon, but we say Payman in the movie. And all these naked people are just bowing to me, and that was an odd experience. I was doing my close-up and looking at all these naked old people bowing to me.
Yeah, and with like,
it was really fun. Some people would pay a lot of good money for that.
I know, right? Some people are really into that stuff. You're probably not. It's, you know, no judgment.
I loved it.
I kind of loved it. I liked the corpses, the beheaded people. It was just
fun. It's a blast.
What I love about this film especially is it's one of those where, like, for example, I swear to God, the other day my wife just happened to say, "Do you remember that thing when Tony Collette was on the ceiling?" And then my colleague the other day just over there was like, "Dude, have you seen Hereditary?" Because that kind of thing. Are you getting that a lot from your friends and family? Like,
Yeah, people are like, "Have you seen Hereditary?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've seen it twice." I'm like, "I've seen it twice. It's a good movie." um, yeah, well, it's definitely more than I've ever had it. Where if I go somewhere, like mostly everywhere I go, someone seen it or someone talks to me about it, which is cool. And almost everybody says something good and interesting. I was thinking, someone said to me, "Hey, spoiler alert!" Someone said, "Your sister really went crazy in that movie. She really lost her head." And I said, "That's not funny." Even though I was cracking up. Is that good?
Such a cheap joke, but a good one. So let's talk about that. I know you've talked about it a lot, but that obviously having to do that scene or that sequence of scenes would have been really challenging. It was very well done, and it completely came out of nowhere for me. I wasn't expecting it. What was your what's the memory that you take from doing that particular sequence of scenes that sticks with you the most?
Pure joy. No, it was like, I mean, it was like the whole experience from start to finish was like so many contradictory things at the same time, like exhilarating. Like I felt like I'm getting an opportunity that no one else has got to do. This is unbelievable. I feel so lucky. With also, this is miserable. This is so hard. I am breaking down. I've never been this vulnerable. I felt raw. I felt like if someone touched me, I would bleed, you know, that sort of like amount of raw. I felt like an open wound. And so it was just that the whole movie. It was a constant battle of this gasoline fire in me that was so exciting. Like I like, it's funny. I was watching like a video I'd made on my phone. I made some video and I think it was trying to be funny. It was during the movie and I was in my hotel room. I think I was trying to be funny, but my sense of humor was so like weird, you know, because you're like so fired up and there's things I was saying that were so dark and not funny, but I thought they were funny at the time. I was like, okay, so it's like I had this like fiery thing that was good, but then it was really hard and it kind of changed the course of things. It's interesting. I've been talking about this movie for a while, but this is stuff I've never really said. I'm like, fuck it, let's go, man. You and me.
Look, how long have you got? Because we'll just stay here all day.
Okay, good. I love it.
You know, for me, the most memorable scene, seriously, was you in the classroom. Peter starts to unravel. He starts to bash his head on the desk. And I'm thinking to myself, how the hell, how are they doing this without actually hurting this guy? So I'm curious how you kind of went through that process.
Well, I boxed for 3 years and I dislocated my jaw. I got hit. I didn't get KO'd, but I got hit really bad by a guy who was much bigger than me because I was cocky and I thought I could fight him, and he knocked me and I kept boxing and he hit me again, and then I stopped it. It was in the 3rd round and I stopped the fight. I was like, stop the fight. Went, you know, hello.
Are you there? Yeah, sorry, we just had a weird thing, but go ahead. We're good now.
I can. Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
What's up, dude?
I don't know what happened. It's just the internet. But
No.
go for it.
Yeah, internet, the interweb. Okay, so I basically got my jaw dislocated, and Ari was talking about that scene. And okay, so to preface that, no special effects are done in that scene. There are no special effects. So what we did was, he was like, I really want you to look contorted and somehow. And I was like, well, I can dislocate my jaw. It hurts, but I can dislocate my jaw for the scene. I showed him, I can do it right now for you, but it hurts a lot. So I dislocated my jaw for that scene right before. Yeah. So I also was like doing all this other, you know, prep stuff to get you kind of emotionally there and make you like, you know, I felt like I was on the verge of a panic attack. I was like squeezing my hands to not like have it till we were on camera. And then I dislocated my jaw, and then I like held my breath for about a minute and just pushed out as hard as I could. And so then my face is all red and like almost purple in that scene because I was holding my breath for so long. And I remember like seeing stars and the camera's like pushing in. And then, but you know, Ari was cued into me being safe and being like sensitive about it. I was just always pushing because I really wanted to, I just really wanted to give it there. I just really felt like this is my chance to do something that I just wanted to physically be there. If you can do something physically, it usually helps cue things in emotionally. So I did that, and then we glued my eyelid back and we glued my lip up, and that was what we did. And that is how we did that scene. And then I just had to do the rest of it. But yeah, that's how we did it.
It was very effective. Like, and I'm sure I'm not the first person to tell you, but that scene in the classroom just was like completely off the charts. So well done. Well done.
Thank you. It's funny because most people talk about the car scene and most people talk about the seance scene.
Yeah.
He just, you know, wailing. But, good.
But I think like if you're just looking at it from a perspective of Alex Wolff's performance in Hereditary, it was that where I just went, shit, this is really, really, really effective performance. So that's cool. You know, that's just my opinion.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. So look, I also was wondering, you know, I talk to actors all the time, and this goes for everybody, no matter what you do for your profession. When you get really positive feedback, accolades or good reviews and stuff like that, it's wonderful, right? It feels good for your ego and so forth. But for you, I think it would be different because, you know, you're still at that stage of your career where, you know, who knows where your career is going to go. And does this give you more opportunity? So are you looking at good reviews because they feel good, or good reviews because they give you more opportunities?
Well, I think the best thing is to not look at reviews at all, because I think that the good ones can be as destructive as the bad ones. The good news is I'm aware of the good reviews because, well, one, people tell you, but also because I'm getting offered movies that I really want to be in, or I'm just getting opportunity to meet with people I really like. This movie, Human Capital, I'm doing is like a dream movie. It's me, Liev Schreiber, and Marissa Tomei, and it's like, you know, dream, and it's like the best part ever. Just did the Hugh Jackman movie, Bad Education, all these really great opportunities, which is the best thing. But I just think it's really important to not look at reviews, because I've fallen into the trap. I remember Patriots Day, I was reading all these good reviews, and then you start valuing them. And then if you see a bad review, you value that. And the truth is that it doesn't really matter either way, because I just have this theory. I mean, I think my mom and brother and like Chris Abbott and like friends and people, like we all talk about, you have to stand by what you believe in. If you think that you're really good in a scene, then stand by it. And if you think you're bad in a scene, stand by it. Because there are scenes in Hereditary I am really happy with and scenes I'm less happy with. And that's the same with every single movie. Hereditary, more so I'm happy with, more so I feel like I kind of transcended what I'd done before. I feel different. I feel like I'm, you know, but I just feel like good reviews can be as destructive and get in your head, and you think, oh, I'm this actor. What did I do in this movie that, you know, I should do in the next movie? It's just don't fucking read them. There's just no point for me as an actor. And I think as a director, it's a different story if you want to read them. But even that, just like if people say you have 0% of Rotten Tomatoes, not one person liked it, maybe you can be like, okay, why did every single person hate it? But other than that, it doesn't matter, because everybody has their own thing they're looking at. Certain things get amazing reviews that have nothing to do. I think Hereditary got great reviews because Ari is a completely anarchist filmmaker who said fuck you to everybody and said, I'm going to make the movie I want. I'm sure everybody told him to make a straight horror movie. I'm sure everybody said, can you take the horror out and make a drama? He was like, no, I'm going to make the movie I want to make. Ari doesn't give a shit about if he gets good reviews or not. Ari wants to make important, challenging, amazing movies. If you look at Kids by Harmony Korine, one of the greatest movies ever made, that's like a 40% on Rotten Tomatoes, low, something like that. But then certain movies, which we won't name, are in the 90s that aren't as good. So it's like, I don't know. I just don't value it, but I feel really lucky that I got really great reviews, and I've accidentally been sent them or whatever, but I just think it's best to avoid it.
Yeah,
but yeah, it feels great when you do see a quote or something, and it's like,
yeah, of course. I think that's probably a really healthy attitude. It's probably really hard not to get tempted to have the ego stroked. But yeah, I think that's probably really healthy. And so that brings me to this.
Peter Travers, Rolling Stone, I'll read. It's just too good. Peter Travers, I looked and he said Wolff's spectacular in the role or something. I was like, yes.
Yes.
That was it. was like, all
That is
right, that's what I need.
wallpapered on your wall. I think.
Exactly.
So, like, given that we're Gold Derby, we talk about awards and stuff. It would be so wonderful to see Hereditary do well this coming award season, but it's always a challenge because of the genre. How do you feel about how horror is perceived as being like a separate genre that perhaps maybe doesn't have the cachet or the gravitas that drama has? Do you think that's fair?
No, I don't, because I think horror can be the most innovative medium. I think that, like, yeah, it's silly, but I think that right now we're overlooking. I think we're not overlooking. I think we're re-examining that, because Get Out was one of the movies that really did that. You know, Get Out was there and won everything, and I think Hereditary had the same sort of splash of people really being like, this is something different. This is something. I think horror right now is having, I kind of compare it to hip hop having a really important moment right now, where it's like people are taking risks, and you know, it's like Kendrick Lamar came out with Damn, which like couldn't have come out like 5-10 years ago. You know, it's a special time for this genre. Like The Witch is unbelievable, and Goodnight Mommy is unbelievable. Babadook is, I'm a horror fanatic. Babadook is phenomenal, and you know, and I'm proud of her. I think Hereditary already did an amazing job. So I think regardless of if awards, I mean, they're thinking about adding a popular film category. So I think they're figuring out what they want. I don't know what they want, but I think that they should examine if Hereditary is one of the movies that they think is the best of the year. And if it is, they should just ignore what genre it is, because Annie Hall won Best Picture, and that's a comedy. And Rosemary's Baby, you know, like Ruth Gordon won for that movie. So I think it's just like, I don't know, all depends. But let's see, man. I don't know.
Yeah, we can only just wait and see. But in the meantime, we can just bask in the glory of how wonderful this film was and your performance. And Alex, thanks so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Of course, man.